At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You're listening to the Retro Mo Podcast. I'm your host, Mo, and I love to play and review old video games and a few new games too. If you prefer to read instead of listen, check out my written reviews at retromo.substack.com. In this episode, I'll be sharing my experience with Evo, Search for Eden, for the SNES, released in 1993. I've scored this game 6 out of 10. An okay game. A quirky evolution-themed RPG platformer. It starts great, but ends poorly. Evo was such a thrill in the first few hours. I had never played an RPG quite like this. You start the game as a wee fish, but you chomp weaker creatures to gain evolution points. You can spend those points to upgrade or evolve parts of your body, like your jaws, fin, tail, etc. With these upgrades, you gain more attack power, more speed, more hit points, etc. And as you progress through each geological period, like the Paleozoic era, Carboniferous period, Mesozoic era, etc., you take on new forms: amphibian, reptile, bird, and mammal. You face increasingly challenging enemies and boss creatures along the way. It's such a fascinating concept, and the first few hours of this game were honestly delightful. Unfortunately, things really fall apart towards the end of the game. The phrase difficulty spike is just inadequate here. Instead, there is a steep cliff of difficulty that you slam into at a certain point late in the game, unless you evolve your creature perfectly. The game seems to give you the illusion of choice in evolving your creature however you want, but there are very particular choices you must make if you're going to give yourself any chance at defeating the later bosses. I found this to be a frustrating flaw in the game. Some of the visuals are nice, and some are a bit mediocre. The soundtrack has a few nice chill tunes that I like, but otherwise it's unremarkable. The story is intriguing, driven mostly by the ingenious concept of the game. In the late game, some story beats get very weird and bizarre, which may be a turnoff for some, or it just may add to the charm for others. The gameplay, unfortunately, leaves much to be desired. Aside from the very frustrating difficulty in the late game, there are also some atrocious hitbox issues. Striking enemies can feel cumbersome. There were times I would get stuck in this loop. I'd receive damage from an enemy, but then I'm not able to move away because you temporarily freeze after taking damage. So I would just repeatedly take damage as the enemy continues attacking me until I die. With no control, no ability to run away. Not great. The level design is also nothing to write home about, and the game becomes increasingly grindy as you progress. If you don't mind dealing with some frustration in the late game, I do recommend following an online evolution guide. Evo can be a wonderfully unique experience. There are clear weaknesses here, but also moments of brilliance that may be worth your time. Thanks for listening to the Retro Mo Podcast. As always, I do my best to keep all of my content spoiler-free and rated E for everyone. If you find this podcast enjoyable or helpful, tell a friend and consider giving a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. If you have questions or comments, you can send an email to retromopodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Godspeed.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked number one in innovation for 10 consecutive years and number two among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.